right, Andrew Casanova leading Fab 5 this morning. Great to have them with us. All right, we move on, folks. Joining us today to explore the profound effects of postpartum depression on new mothers, explore its ripple effects on their partners, and uncover strategies for supportive partnerships. Psychiatrist Dr. Tamika Miller. Good morning, Doc. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure. For those of us who don't like me and don't know where I go on, what is postpartum?
Postpartum refers to the time period after childbirth, and postpartum depression itself is going to refer to depression that occurs in a woman after childbirth, and it can happen anywhere up to a year after childbirth.
But it doesn't necessarily happen to every...
It doesn't. So it happens in about 1 to 2 out of every 10 women who have after childbirth. And so there's also something called postpartum blues or baby blues, which some persons might have heard about, and that is more common, occurring about 8 in every 10 women after childbirth. And that is characterized by just, some crying spells. They probably have a little doubt or worry about just adjusting to having a newborn baby. And so that is just kind of fleeting. It occurs in probably the first week of having the baby, and it goes away in a few days. But the difference between that and postpartum depression is that postpartum depression symptoms are worse. Crying all the time, sad all the time, loss of interest in things, sleep and appetite disturbance, and then those women can also have suicidal thoughts, infanticidal thoughts as well, which is thoughts of harming the baby. And it significantly impacts the bonding that the mother should have with the baby during that time period.
What triggers postpartum depression or even the baby blues, and are there particular types of women that are predisposed to it?
So the main factor that is involved is hormonal. So during pregnancy, you have very high levels of the female sex hormones, progesterone and estrogen. And right after birth, you have a rapid drop-off in those levels of hormones, which can impact on the woman developing both postpartum blues and also postpartum depression. And with postpartum blues, though, it's really just an adjustment period. You're adjusting to a new routine, having to take care of a little one who can't do anything for themselves at all. So they usually snap out of that pretty quickly. But for postpartum depression, there are also multiple factors involved. That is going to be a past history of depression, a family history of depression. You also have factors such as whether or not they had a difficult pregnancy, if caring for a child or a newborn now who is ill or having difficulties feeding. The problems with sleep deprivation are also going to impact on them developing postpartum depression. Other social things such as financial struggles, the relationship with their partner. So women who are no longer in a relationship with their partner, they're going to be at increased risk of postpartum depression as well.
Yeah. Well, you said 2 out of 10, because I suspect most mothers are just really, really happy that they have a child. But could it also be because when you have children, some mothers, not everyone, you kind of put on a lot of weight on them, say your face get big. Mm-hmm. Could that also mother just don't like how me look afterwards?
Of course.
Want to come back down to this,
Absolutely. So there are many women who struggle with the postpartum body and not feeling as sexy or not as good looking as they thought that they did before. And so that can also impact their mental health and contribute to the depressive symptoms that they have as well.
Yeah, you mentioned it already. We have some headlines and you could talk us through it. Hormone therapy. Mm-hmm. What do you do if that's the problem?
Hormone therapy. So we don't necessarily... You're referring to using hormone therapy in the treatment of postpartum depression. So that's not usually the first thing that we jump to. What we would do is more related to psychological help. So for instance, counseling or talk therapy is probably one of the first steps that we go to. And then the use of medications such as antidepressant medications is what we would use mostly to help persons with postpartum depression.
On that note about antidepressants, pardon me. Would that affect the child? Because like mom is breastfeeding and then she's introducing this drug into her body.
So yes, it can have an impact on breastfeeding. And so there are different drugs though. Some are not going to be passed into the breast milk and some are. So you would have to counsel the mother on that, and you would have to make the best choice in terms of weighing risk versus factors. So if a woman really needs the antidepressant medication and they would need one that is going to interfere with breastfeeding, then we'd have to counsel them about other options such as formula feeding.
Now, on the matter of still dealing with and treating postpartum depression, what role do we have, do partners have in supporting the treatment?
A very big role. So one of the other factors involved in postpartum depression is lack of support. And so you're going to have lots of support in order to help to prevent it from happening in the first place, and in order to have improvement in the symptoms, support is necessary. So partners or fathers are going to play a very big role, whether it be just taking the baby so that mom can rest a little bit, taking turns with feeding the baby. And that also helps the father with him bonding with the baby as well. But support your partner, encourage them, let them know that they're still strong, they're still beautiful, no matter the weight that they have gained. Help your partner, try to ensure that you all are eating healthily. But the most important thing is to educate oneself on the symptoms of postpartum depression so that you can identify them if they're present.
Which is where I was going to go in, Dr. Tams, because how I know is that?
Right.
How I know is that? Because maybe me just say, I should just get miserable because I'm not doing enough.
I should normally miserable, so how you tell no.
So how I know is, and I'm being very serious. But by the way, this might be a stupid question because, I say that because of something like a panic attack, which says not necessarily anything wrong with you, but you kind of feel there's something wrong with you. Postpartum is a medical condition, or you just think that something kind of wrong with me?
So all mental health conditions are considered medical conditions, yes.
And postpartum is considered a mental health?
It's considered a mental condition, mental illness, just like depression in itself. So we still consider it a medical condition because, as I said before, there are hormonal factors that are involved. So there are biological processes that are going on in the body that are causing those symptoms.
In terms of the treatment, you did mention counseling, etc., antidepressants in some instances, hormone therapy, which seems to be way down on the list. But are there other things, natural remedies, anything that mommy can do as well? Right.
So things such as ensuring a good diet, exercise is always going to be important or helpful, but of course you have to give your body time to recover after you've had a baby. But that is going to cause a release of feel-good hormones that also helps as well. And bonding time, spending time with family, friends, your partner, and so on, that can also be very helpful.
We're almost out of time, Dr. Tams. I know it's not a one-size-fits-all, but all things being equal, about how long it should last?
So postpartum depression can last up to a year in some women. After about 12 months, about a third of women still can have symptoms, especially if they're untreated. So the important factor is to identify the symptoms early, get help early.
Can it have a long-term effect on the woman if it goes untreated?
Yes, so depression can have a long-term effect on not only the woman, but also the baby and the partner.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for
Very
having
well
me.
explained. I'm impressed.
Okay, I hope you learned a lot.
I learned a lot. God bless you and your family. Sit with us for a while. She's a psychiatrist, Dr. Tamika Miller.
Coming up, we discuss the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas. Stay with us.